Summary of steps. Before pouring up your double bite impression, we recommend you use a good quality debubbleizer on both impression and the Cbite Falcon Articulator. Mix your preferred dye stone with a recommended amount of water in a vacuum mixer. Then slowly pour in the stone using the spatula and stone vibrator. Set aside the poured up impression and hand fill the stone opening of the Cbite Falcon. Okay, once you have mixed the stone, apply debubbleizer on the impression, and you also want to do it on the articulator. Just a little bit, not too much. Okay. Just put enough, just level it off right now. And then you can turn off the vibrator, and you want to manually pour in. Actually, what you do is you kind of slide it in. You need that sliding motion like this, and then tap it down. The key is for it to cover those surface stabilizers without getting any air pockets in them. Again, what you do is you just tap it on the surface so it just flows in around it. And for the moment, that's all you need to do, because the stone is not firm enough yet, and you need to wait a little bit longer for the stone to firm up a little bit. Otherwise, it's not going to stack. If you put a lot of stone on top of that right now, it's just gonna flow out to the side. Okay, I've waited about a little over a minute, and as you can see, the stone here is starting to stack, starting to firm up. So now I could go ahead and apply the stone, because now this will stack. The key here is to know the working property of your stone, because you still want to have a little time to be able to work with it and not let it get hard on you real quick, and otherwise you don't have any working time to shape it, and that's critical. So at this point I really need to start working on this now to stack it. So at this point here, you want to be able to put it directly right on top there, and also you want to be able to kind of center that line as much as you can towards where you're going to have room on the top here. So the key is to be able to have that amount of time. In this case, this looks good, so I can just remove that excess stone. Yes, you definitely want to remove all excess stone, because you're going to have to grind all that out later, and you don't want to do that. As you can see, this is an important procedure right here, is to make sure that you wipe it with your fingers so the stone is flush with the side walls of the articulator. And one good thing one good technique is to actually wet your fingers with a little bit of water and just apply it that way. And this is a good time to fill in any holes. And again, remove the excess stone. As you can see, it's fairly well positioned there on top, and it's also fairly level this way. And then now this should be good enough to set aside, and once this has set, then we can do the other side. Okay, we're doing the other side now. Again, we need to apply a little bit of debubbleizer on this, and also a little debubbleizer on the Cbite Falcon. This is just so the stone will glide around better around the surface stabilizer and not create air pockets. And for now, what you need to do is just level it off. Set that aside. And for the articulator, all we need to do is just hand pour it. Just go to the edges, to the sides, and then move forward, allowing the stone to flow in towards the middle. And then do the same on the other side. And that's all you need to do for now. It's basically just level it off. Until the stone sets, gets a little firmer. That's all what you need to do, is just let it set a little bit. Okay, we are almost ready. The stone is getting a little firm. Now, one thing I want to mention is we're waiting for the stone to firm up a little bit. That's because we really just, I've got a stone that sets a little bit longer, and I'm only doing one case here. In the lab where you have multiple cases that you can work on, you could just basically line these up, and by the time let's say you're doing 4 or 5 or even 6, by the time you get to the 6th one, the first one's already ready to do the second pour. So again, it's it all depends on the working property of your stone. So I think we're good now here. So looks like it's already firming up. I want to go ahead and pour more stone in there. It's always good to pour a little bit more than not enough, because you can always remove the excess. But if you don't have enough, it's a little more difficult to have to fill things up. Okay, we're probably good there. What we could do now is just snap the two sides together. Okay, and then see here, now what you need to do is slowly kind of don't force it. You don't want to mess up the the bite registration. In this case, I could have lowered this some more here, but anyway, the point is we could also have models that are a little bit high in terms of not being exactly parallel, and I'll explain why that's not really a bad thing. Aesthetically, of course, it always looks nicer when it's fully balanced, but you won't always have that luxury with the different types of impressions you get. And here we can fill this area out here. Because there are times when you're going to get the opposing side that's already pre-poured, and you need to mount it, so you're not going to have that much room. We decided not to give too much space in between here because for the most part the space we have at right now is plenty to do the double bite trays, and if we gave too much space you'd be wasting a lot of stone, so that's the rationale behind this. And again, we could use a little bit of water to smooth it out. It's real important that you clean the edges off here so it's nice and flush, because that's what's going to determine your occlusion if your dies are properly seated. Okay, there's a little bit of a hole here earlier, so I can just fill that out at this point. There you go. So again, because this area was a little bit high and I didn't lower it enough, it's causing this to come up a little bit. At the same time, I could bring it down some more, but I don't want to push it too hard because I could mess up the actual registration of the impression there. So it's better to just leave it this way, and this is certainly acceptable. Now basically we just let it set. Okay, the stone is now set. As you can see, as I mentioned earlier, that I didn't let it come down a little bit more on the back, so it's a little bit higher up front. But then again, I continue to show this to you because I want you to know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with this impression, with this model rather, just because it's a little bit higher up front. So anyway, let's take it apart. Okay. So basically, as you can see, here it is. This will need to be trimmed, obviously, and this side here. As you can see, there's a little bit more stone up front and causing it to slope upward like this. This area here is a little thick, and that's why I didn't get a chance to. The impression did not get a chance to go down a little lower and have a more even profile. Here, let me show you this. This model here used the exact same impression. As you can see, it's a lot more even. Of course, this looks nice, but at the same time, you know, this is just as functional, and that was the point I wanted to make. So, and you're going to have cases where the doctor will send you a pre-poured opposing side, and sometimes they're going to be very thick, and I mean you can grind it all down with a model grinder and all, but if you end up getting a model like this, it's still fully functional. Okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this from the standpoint of view, from the point of view of a functional model.